back to Sage Lotus Tarot 888. And today we're going to be talking about how to spot a genuine, real tarot reader, right? So, in a nutshell, y'all, the way to tell a real tarot reader is they will tell you the truth in their readings, no matter how blunt it may sound or no matter how hurtful it may be to hear the truth about what's being done in the background, but they will say it. Not in a rude, harmful, crass way, but they will always point out what's really going on the inside, what's going on around you, the people around you. They won't just always stick to the positive. Not saying that there's anything wrong with sticking with the positive, but they'll tell you the whole thing. And you'll know and feel it in your spirit when you hear it. Another way to tell if somebody is a real tarot reader, check the facts. Look around in your own life. Look around in those around you that you know even. Cross-reference and check the information that you're getting in those readings and see if it aligns. Of course, that's a more obvious sign. But another one is this. So a lot of tarot readers like to claim that they're genuine, and I'm not knocking it, right? But they like to claim they're genuine. But for some of these people, they just literally picked up a tarot deck. They went and bought it. Not saying that it's wrong to do. I'm just saying they just went out and bought it because maybe they saw someone else doing it, or maybe, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But that's not necessarily a calling. Let me show you and let me explain to you what a calling is. I'll use me as an example, right? So a lot of people think that I'm one of those tarot readers that just went and bought a deck and decided to start doing readings. A lot of people that are OGs on my channel know that I'm for real. Everything that I say in my readings, they're not just real for y'all, they are real for me too, right? But I'm going to tell you a little example through my story, right? So back in, I think it was 2012, if I'm remembering correctly, I had actually gotten a tarot deck from an old high school friend of mine. And I remember this particular peer, they had the biggest crush on me for so long. Girl, they were trying so hard to get me to like them and do stuff with them. And I just remember in high school, I never really gave them any play. And I remember one day I had been living at the time with my ex of, 8 years. We were together for 8 years. We stayed together with his mom. And that was the guy that, I had discussed on this channel before, and that whole scenario. And that was somebody that I really felt like was the one, right? And so, that whole situation, it was messy as hell. That's the domestic abuse video that I did years back. Guys, go check it out if you like. But anyway, I remember that this was during the time when we were still together. I was still with that ex, and things were getting more and more toxic by the second, by the minute, by the hour, by the day, by the week, by the month, by the year, right? And so for some reason, it was like I would always get this sensation that they were hiding things from me and lying to me. And granted, later on, I found out that was true, but I wasn't in tune with myself and my intuition at this time. I was partying way hardcore back then too, and dealing with my own, struggles and all that good stuff. I share a lot of stories on here, so y'all just piece it together, right? Well, I remember that one day on Facebook, this particular guy from high school that used to always be crushing on me and I would just turn him down, hit me up. They hit me up on Facebook and we got to chatting. Nothing like that. I wasn't one of them females that was really trying to cheat or anything like that. Like I was in love, deeply in love, to a fault, but the point is, I just remember I was like, hey, where you been? Oh my God, I haven't heard from you in years. How are you? Whoop-de-whoop, And we were chopping it up. And while we were catching up, they asked me where have I been at? Am I still in the same side of town? Well, when I told them where I was, come to find out, they were literally right around the corner in the neighborhood across the street from ours. So literally walking distance. And I was like, oh my God, this is fate. We're supposed to be talking again. Let's link up. Let's chill. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could come through to our house, smoke up, whatever, right? Well, anyway, I remember that we met up for a little bit, and I remember I let them come over to the house. They met my ex at the time. We were all chilling, smoking, doing our thing. And I remember before this person left, this guy that was crushing on me that I never gave no play. Now, I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying, like, I just think it's funny. But anyway, before he left, he was like, hey, it was really good to see you, whoop-de-whoop. And he gave me this tarot deck, the Egyptian tarot deck. And of course, at this time, I had not a clue what the cards meant. Not at all. I didn't even know. I was like, what the fuck? I wasn't even thinking about tarot or anybody that does tarot at this time. Never even watched a reading or a video of anybody else doing it. None of that at this time. I was just trying to survive through life. Struggling to at the time. But I'm just setting the tone, right? So anyway, I held on to these cards because I'm like, damn, these must have came to me for a reason, because I've never been a reader before. I've had premonitions. I know that we had conversations about that in the past, and I was thinking, well, I don't know, maybe there's a reason he got them for me, but I remember that deck had some missing cards in it. And so I was like, well, damn, I can't even really do much. And so I always plan to replace the deck, get the same deck and try and figure out, how much it is, whoop, so I can replace it and have a full, complete deck, right? So anyway, fast forward a couple years later, and at this time, me and my ex finally broke up for the final time because just shit came to a head in a way that just was just unforgivable, undeniable, irreparable, all of the above, right? So I'm finally on my own. Mind you, I was so distracted with the relationship and the drama and toxicity within that relationship and my own, journey through healing childhood trauma and all this other stuff. I didn't know where to start, didn't know where to look, didn't know what to do. But I knew that I always had, some dreams ever since I was a little girl that would end up coming true. I would end up remembering, hey, when somebody would say something, or when I'm in a certain place with a certain group of people, I'd be like, well, damn, I know I dreamt about this before. It was so vivid. I knew it. Like right when I'd tell them I knew you were going to say that or something. Just different things like that. I would always have dreams, or I would think about somebody right before they call, or think about something happening and then it would happen. Different stuff like that. I just didn't know that it was, I didn't know where to look. I didn't know where to start when it came to exploring that, right? But then, now that I had more time to myself after that breakup with that toxic ex, I was like, okay, I want to look into this, because I knew that person would just do nothing but lie. So there was no conversation to be had that would lead anywhere. So I said, let me start looking into this. And I started getting more into spirituality, because I used to collect, well, I don't used to, I still do. I used to be big on like trying to figure out the metaphysical properties of crystals and stones and all that, and the use of them for meditation and chakra centers and all that stuff. And little by little, I was just getting more and more into teaching myself different things, and even researching narcissism at this time and all this good stuff. And so I remember, going through my things one day and, finding that deck with the missing cards. I said, oh shit, now that I have money, I can replace the deck. So I remember it was like $25 for this deck back when I got it back, got it replaced. And when I got it, I started teaching myself the cards and kind of looking inside the booklet. And then I was like, you know what? I don't know. It never really called to me until the calling came again when a friend of mine that was big into spirituality and even conspiracy type stuff. I remember I went down the rabbit hole with stuff like that, and learning about, different things around, different conspiracies. I won't name them because last time I did that, it just ruined me. But anyway, I just remember I was just now starting my journey of trying to explore my intuition, and just kind of realizing that, I have a gift, and learning that I was I had the ability to heal and help others. And that's always been something that I wanted to do since I was a little girl anyway. And so I just remember, a friend of mine showing me a couple of tarot readers actually, and I actually want to give them a shout out in this video. So these are the tarot readers that actually inspired me and led me to want to explore my own intuition and figure out what my calling truly is. And the first one that I was introduced to was Quietest Revolution. She is gorgeous. I love the way that she breaks everything down. I love the way that she's able to even discuss what it is inside that we're working on, and what it is inside that we can do to help ourselves progress and heal and manifest and all these different things. Absolutely loved it. Then another one I discovered was Uriel Firelight Guidance. And you guys can actually see her inspiration in my videos. And I feel so bad about this, but, whenever I heard her opener for when she started doing her readings, she would call on the spirit, call on the universe. And at first I didn't know how to really start my readings off. This was when I first started dabbling into doing videos of my own on YouTube and learning how to edit software and all this good stuff. So I'm still trying to get the hang of things and get my own original thing going. And at the time I didn't really have that, but I just knew I wanted to start doing tarot readings. And so as you can see in some of my videos back in 2017, I used that, or a variation of that anyway. I kind of made it my own, but I used a variation of that to start my readings. And I learned the importance of asking of the cards from her and different stuff, different things like that, and seeing her use different crystals within her readings, and, sage and incense and all of that. And I started down the rabbit hole of looking up the purpose of sage and, just all these different things. So little by little, it went back to these cards, these cards that I was gifted years ago, and usually that's how the calling comes to you as a reader, is you're either given something, like usually you're given a deck of cards, or you find a deck of cards, or something to that effect where they find you, if that makes sense. And so I just remember ever since, I came across, those two tarot readers, and then I saw, Tyler's Tarot. He was really funny because he used to always go off in the chat and stuff. And then Sunshine Tarot, I loved her style, which also kind of influenced my little direction of my channel too. Because I was like, I love her wigs. Like, that is so fun. I thought that was so fun. And she was just so lively, and I loved it. I absolutely loved each reader that I'm listed so far for being different in their own way, but bringing their own spin on things and making it fun and making it them. You know what I mean? So that's where I started my whole trend of wanting to do different wigs and have fun with that. Just trying to find my own medium, so to speak. And so, and I'm not here to be, advocating for trying to steal content out. I wasn't the type to steal content or anything like that. There are people that outright just steal the way that people talk and trying to steal, like trying to copy it. Me, I've just tried to make it my own, if that makes sense. I feel like now that I know a little bit more about content creation, just with my experience, starting back in 2017, May of 2017 is when I started this channel. I just remember that I didn't really have too much direction on what I wanted to do. I didn't really have a plan. So I was just kind of winging it, and I had found inspiration along the way. But, when it comes to, content, copying other people's content and all that other stuff, I don't agree with it, even though I realized, later on down the line that I did that in some form or way, just trying to find my own original way or format to do things. You know what I mean? And that wasn't my intention. It really was just based off of inspiration, being inspired by these people and kind of trying to take, my own, or trying to, have my own take on, the way that they did things, or the way, they executed their videos and stuff like that. Now, as you can see, obviously I was in my own lane because of course I still brought my own personality to it, I like to make things original. And that's when I really started putting in the work, trying to figure out, how my opener should be something that's different, something that you don't really hear, putting a closer, at the end of the video. So for example, until next time, stay blessed, not stressed, peace and love. So I remember hearing from a couple tarot readers. So like Corey Kinshin is one where he said, until next time. And then he would say, he said, until next time, he said, stay safe out there, samurai, or something like that, And then I know there was another YouTuber, I cannot think of their name because I'm trying to think off the top of my head, and there's so much going through my head right now, but there are a few other not tarot readers, but content creators that use the until next time thing. And so I just decided to turn it into my own. Until next time, stay blessed, not stressed, peace and love. So it's not exactly it, but again, it's based off of inspiration. And I wanted to make a video where not only am I revealing to you like how the journey and the path starts and how to tell that somebody's real, but I also wanted to share the type of tarot readers that inspired me along my journey. Now, there were a couple of other tarot readers that came and inspired me to come back, which one of them was Shavi Zane, Tarot Investigator. I really love her energy, and I love the way that she does her readings. She goes very in depth, and she does it in a different way that you don't see too often on this platform. And you can tell that she's real. You know what I mean? Just based off of the things that she talks about and just how she doesn't really candy coat things like that, and that she's actually pointing out things, real life issues that are going on in those readings. So that was one of the tarot readers that actually inspired me to come back, because I'm like, I kind of lost my zest for it after a while, because I was so focused on numbers and so focused on, how am I going to get here? And I'm setting unrealistic goals for myself, not realizing that YouTube is a journey that's different for everyone. And for some people, it may take you at least a decade to get even 10,000. I've heard some people's stories on here where it took them 10 years to even get to 10,000 or to get to even 50,000 or, whatever. So not everybody's journey is different, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily you. It just means that you need to figure out more ways to make your channel grow and pop, and what lane do you want to be in, and having a plan, and realizing that even though you do have a plan, that these things are unpredictable when it comes to an algorithm, and you just have to. So I started trying to study the algorithm and all this stuff. But anyway, so those are the tarot readers that inspired me, and I knew that was something that I wanted to do too. And so that's what started this journey, was all because that dude that had a crush on me that I wasn't giving no play, at the end of the day, he kind of led me to find myself, and I love it, so those are some of the ways that you can see that somebody is genuine, like the calling came to them, so to speak, and they're able to speak on that and share how they came to tarot reading and why. So my why is this, right? So always make sure you figure out the person's why. Some people just want to do it for a quick buck. See, me, I like to help people. I genuinely like to help people. The job that I do now, I actually feel motivated to get up regardless of whatever drama's going on with it, amongst my peers or whatever. I actually want to get up and do it because I feel like I'm making a difference, a positive difference, able to help people, and at the same time be able to sustain, stability for myself. But my why for doing my readings is I want to help people, and besides wanting to help people, I know what it's like to go through trauma, darkness, hell, pain, loss, grief, gaslighting, narcissism, or dealing with narcissists, all that. And not really having, but maybe one person who maybe isn't around anymore to kind of help you through, or to kind of show you who you are. My grandfather was that person. He always made it a point to remind me who I am, and to stop clowning around in class. Man, I was in AP classes, straight A's. I loved school. That's why. It was because I loved learning. I don't say that to brag. I'm just telling you a little bit about me. And, a lot of people saw that, I was able to comprehend things, in ways that others maybe couldn't at the time in my class. Or, I was asked to skip a grade twice, for example. I just really loved school. Hell, I still love to learn type thing, right? So my grandfather knew that I had the ability to do whatever I really wanted to do if I would just stop clowning around in class, because I would get bored and then I would start doing crazy stuff, which led me to getting older, realizing, oh my God, I'm doing the same thing. When I'm bored, I start doing hood rat stuff with my used to be hood rat friends. I don't do that stuff no more. But the point is I realized that was part of it. I had to kind of come back to my roots and stuff like that. So my why is knowing how hard it was. It felt almost damn near impossible to come out alive, that is, of all the addiction. Honey, we're not going to talk about all the stories in this video because I want to make this video quick, girl. But what I'm trying to tell you is my why is I know what it's like to go through something like that alone. And I want those going through that to know that they're not alone. And the fact that I've lived through some things that most either don't make it through or have lived through and never speak about. I want to be the one that's not afraid to speak out about it and inspire change, positive change in the lives of others, who can then feel inspired to have the courage to speak out about the truth, and inspire other people to look within and understand that they're not alone, and that there is somebody out there that understands them and that can show them the light within their own, situations through these readings. That is my other why. My third why is I think it's fun. It helps me get back in touch with my own intuition. It helps me sharpen my own intuition, because not only do I read for others, but I read for myself, and I do my best to, learn about how to cleanse the decks, learn about, protection during reading, having to kind of figure that out on my own, and different things like that, and spirit, the spiritual aspects of it all, and, how to navigate that properly. You know what I mean? There was a lot of learning curve for me in regards to that. But, over time, I just feel like little by little, I was able to figure all of that out and be able to be the best leader that I could be, and to actually help people. That's the bottom line. I want to help people heal. I want to help people realize that they have the power within them to achieve whatever it is they set out to achieve if they do the work, if they believe in themselves, if they consistently, you know what I mean? Like, know that they have support. That is, some people don't have that type of support. And, I was one of them, until I made this channel and found so many people, so many OGs still in the comments to this day. I mean, unfortunately, I stepped away for a couple years and all that good stuff. So, I have to rebuild. But the point is those people that were there from the beginning, they still come through, and I appreciate that. And that creates a sense of community. And that's another thing. That's another why. So make sure, if you want to know that your tarot reader is genuine, make sure you know their why. Make sure you know how they started, and pay attention to what they say in those readings. It'll tell you a lot. But not to make this video too long, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me. Drop it below in the comments and let me know any signs that I may have missed on ways to figure out that somebody's a genuine tarot reader. And until next time, stay blessed, not stressed. Peace and love.